Guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Rinke here. In this video, I'm going to be sharing 3 critical tips to making akara that is fluffy and delicious without being greasy on the inside. Let's get cooking, guys. I am going to share the ingredient that I'm using in the caption, but making akara is really simple, really. You need peeled soaked beans. Black-eyed peas is a lot better if you have access to black-eyed peas. Like I think in Nigeria, we call it white beans versus like oloyin, just because oloyin is softer. Akara has a bit more density, so I find that using black-eyed peas is a lot better than using brown beans. But it's fine if that's all you have. You can definitely use brown beans as well. So you want to peel the beans and then you want to soak it. About overnight is usually what's recommended, but I would say anything from 4 to 12 hours would be ideal. And remember that there's already water in the soaked beans. So think about that when you are adding water into your blending, process. Anyways, I'm just adding the peeled beans into my blender. And then in here I actually have about 1 cup. So 1 cup of raw beans was what I soaked and peeled. And now I'm going to be introducing about 1/3 or 1/4 cup of water into the blending. You really, really want this to be thick. The more water you introduce, the more liquidy or light your akara batter is, the more oil is going to be absorbed in the frying process. This is one of the most critical points really when it comes to making akara that isn't greasy on the inside. If there's a lot of water in the batter, it will absorb a lot of oil. If it's like a thick batter that is well aerated, you're not going to end up with a lot of oil. So blending it is a bit of a headache, right? Because you don't want to just add water and make it blend easier. So usually I will go in and just do a mix every now and again, just so I don't have to introduce a lot of water into the blending process. I do this a couple of times until everything is well blended. And after all of that blending, this is the thickness that you're looking for. You want your batter to be this thick, guys. I know the temptation is I'm just going to add water so you can blend quickly. Think about this consistency as kind of like a mix. When you mix egusi with water, when you're making egusi soup, that's kind of what you want this to be. You want it to be thick and fluffy just so that it doesn't absorb oil, because remember, that is the goal. That's why we're going through this. Now, I am going to aerate. The second tip is you want to aerate your batter. You don't just want to blend it and then add seasoning and fry it. No, you want to aerate it. And I know that some people think that there's reward in punishment and suffering. I do not think so. So I'm using my stand mixer. You can definitely use omorogun if you prefer. You can use a hand mixer if you prefer, but I will be using my stand mixer because I have one and it's convenient. And I'm just going to add all of my stuff in. I'm not going to introduce any more water because everything is well blended, and I'm going to give this a good mix once I add all of my seasonings in. Now, in my house when I was growing up, we only added salt and pepper, onion into akara. That's it. There was no Maggi, there was nothing. It was just chopped onion, pepper. I'm using quite a bit of pepper in this video. But now, as a grown-up-ish, I like to have a little bit of crayfish, so I'm just adding in salt and crayfish. I'm not adding Maggi. I still do not use Maggi in my curry just because I do not like the taste of it. So it's just salt and crayfish that I'm adding in outside of my chopped onions and peppers. And then I'm just going to set this and let it go for about 5 minutes. While that is going, I'm also going to be setting up my oil, and just so that by the time this is done, my oil is like hot and the akara is ready to be fried. And for my oil, I'm using vegetable oil with a little bit of palm oil. The 2 kinds of akara traditionally, right? There's akara that is fried primarily in palm oil. I do not have the luxury of frying anything in palm oil because it's so expensive, but I still like a little bit of that flavor. So I would typically introduce a bit of palm oil into my vegetable oil. And then for flavoring the oil as well, I add big chunks of onion. They're not tiny because I don't actually want this pieces of onion to end up on the akara or stuck on the akara. So I typically just have like big chunks, and then once they're kind of like fried, I can usually like easily take them out and discard them later in the frying process. And by the time my oil is coming to temp, my batter is ready and fluffy, and this is the kind of like consistency that you're looking for. You can see it looks like it's whipped. That's really the consistency that you're looking for. It's well aerated. You have to aerate akara batter. You can't just blend and fry like I already said, right? It looks well aerated. This is good to go. I already have my onions in, I have my peppers in, I have my salt in, and I also have my crayfish in, which is 100% optional, but this is ready to be fried. So let's get to the frying part. And this is where we get into tip number 3. When frying akara, don't use like a flat frying pan that doesn't have a bottom for the akara to float in, and don't shallow fry. If you shallow fry your akara, it will be flat. If you use a pot that doesn't have a bottom, like you throw the akara in and it just sits at the bottom of the pan, it is going to be flat. So make sure you use something that has a bit of depth like I'm using here, and make sure that you have enough oil in the pan to allow the akara to actually float. As the bottom sets, the akara will naturally float by itself, and that is what you want. And also, don't overcrowd the pan. Like, don't be tempted to put so much that there's no space for the akara to actually move around. The spacing that I have in this video is ideal, right? Because you can kind of see the akara just swimming, moving around the pan. This is what you want. And once the bottom kind of like start to set, then you just want to give it like a little bit of, a toggle just to help it move about a little bit more. And then if you flip it too early, it's fine. You don't have to panic. If you flip it and you're like, oh, that bottom is not fully done, like I've done in this one, then you just flip it again when the other part is cooked. So you just keep flipping back and forth until you get like a really, really good golden brown color all around the akara, and that's it. So you do this and you repeat the process until all of your batter is fried and you have good and delicious non-greasy akara. And here you have it, akara that is crunchy on the outside, fluffy and non-greasy on the inside. Honestly, this, as far as I'm concerned, is how you do like guilt-free fried akara. I'm just going to be opening one so you can see there's absolutely no oil on the inside. With the 3 tips I just shared, you guys should have confidence in making fluffy, delicious, non-greasy akara every single time. Happy cooking!